Hey, hey.
Hello,
What's up, John
everybody.
Cleaver?
I'm doing awesome, Wendy Lee. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to chat with you today.
Fantastic, fantastic, everybody. If you're watching this live, welcome. If you're watching it pre-recorded, welcome in spirit. This is Money Moves with Jon C and Wendy Lee. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. ish. We're
Ish.
transitioning over to summer. I know my schedule. All of a sudden, everybody's home, and it's kind of like, okay, great, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. And I like the subject today. What we're going to be talking about, kind of that money mindset and the things that we're used to and our money. What did you call it? Money personality? Is that what you call it?
Your money. Now I forget. You asked. I forgot what I call it, but it's your where your mindset is on your money
Yeah.
identity. Yeah, that's what it is.
Identity.
Money
Yeah.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, as do you, but so many times what gets us stuck in not getting the next level is a money mindset issue. It's like, for whatever reason, ideas that money is bad, or ideas that we're not worth more, or ideas that more is going to be required, or just things even from childhood that money beliefs that we have, whether that's scarcity or, um, that feeling of lack, or just that money is evil. Like I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of people talk about that. So I want to hear a little bit from you, like what your background on money is, and like what your journey has been with that. Have you always just had you're in money for a living. Have you just always been good with it?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired about it. So that's where it's like, okay, I can just want it to happen, or I can actually take action and make stuff happen, and that's what happened. But like most people out there, I grew up a kid of the '70s and '80s, right? A little more rough and tumble than we have today. Did not come from money. My parents are divorced. That always impacts everybody financially as well. And I spent some time with my mom, spent some time with my dad, and just trying to make ends meet. And typical middle class family, right? Living check to check, trying to make things happen. And I was one of the first to go to college in my family. Literally, my grandparents were migrant workers at a period of their life. They, back in the 30s and 40s and stuff like that, they actually would go and that's how they made money. Now they obviously bettered themselves, as most people do, and you try to hope your kids do better and try to teach them well and things like that. But one of those challenges was always the money aspect, and really looking at it as though, man, it's you got all these rich people out there, who knows what they're doing. I'm just going to school trying to figure stuff out, and we're not, you and I've talked about this before on this show. It's we're not getting that education out there, so you get in a situation where and I was the same boat, where it's like, okay, well, if I can get a job and maybe make some good money, I'll be okay, and then I'll try to figure it out as I go. Right? I mean, that's kind of, I don't know what your experience has been, but then I started consuming just all kinds of any books I could do, and figure, okay, well, what are they doing that I'm not? What are they doing that I'm not? And you try some things, you win. You try some things, you lose, and then eventually you start to the light bulbs start going off. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I kind of grew up, my mom never worked my entire life. I mean, I think she was a waitress for a second when I was like 6. But she didn't work. She actually had a sleeping disorder that caused her to not be able to keep a job. And so my dad always worked blue collar electrician, and nobody was a college graduate in my family until me. I actually was
Oh,
the first with a
yeah.
degree in my family. Um, and my dad, they were not like, everything they bought was used. They never bought
Mhm.
new. I never felt like we didn't have money, but I
Mhm.
was definitely, it was like, we're not spending money frivolously at all. We will
Yeah.
never splurge. And every conversation, to this day, I love my dad dearly, but to
Mhm.
this day, like, he would go to Costco and be like, hey, do you want me to pick you up? Blah, 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 blah. And come back and tell me to the penny what I owe him. Right. Like, he's
Yeah.
very just, you know, he actually threw my sunglasses into the lake the other day. my $200 sunglasses
Oof.
right here. They threw them in the lake. The reason I have some new ones is because I bought new ones. But he goes, I mean, I'll pay you for half of them. I'll give you $100. And I'm like, you threw them in the lake. He's like, yeah, but you worn them, you know, like you
They were
wore them for a
used.
little while.
They were used. It's not like they were new in the box. That's awesome.
And then it's like, and then he's like, I could go find those used, you know, on Facebook Marketplace, blah, blah, blah. So that's just their mind, right?
Yeah.
And everything, like, I never realized this, but everything was about money. Like, everything was about how much you were going to spend. I mean, they would go to Maui, Hawaii, vacation, and it would be like, we're splitting a meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything, like every decision was made around money.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that comes from, you know, the lack of. That's why, you know, a lot of you see it still today too. You've got a lot of the working class, that middle class America, and I define middle class as, you know, somebody making, you know, 40,000 up to 140, 150,000. That's kind of middle class. You get into upper middle class towards 200, but you start looking at that, and it's the mindset of money. And you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. You brought this up, and it was great. I don't know if you picked up on it as much or got as much out of it as I did, but, you know, looking at the cost of things, right? You know, we do the budget, and it's all about, okay, here's my income point, and now I'm going to budget within that. And that's very important. Don't get me wrong. But what we fail to do, in most of us, and I'm talking about most of us out there in middle America, we fail to take that step of, hey, money isn't a limited resource. It's not. And that's the way we treat it. That's the way we're taught of. Money is a limited resource. So we go into it thinking that applies to everything in life. And really, you know, money is a limitless supply. There's a limitless supply of money out there. I mean, if you look at the government, you know, obviously they've shown that, right? We'll just keep printing it. But for the individual family, it's one of those where they can continue to go out and find things, you know, whether it's get a night job or a side hustle, or leave your current job and go to another job to get a higher increase in pay. And you start looking at that aspect of it. But the thing that really battles within is what we were just talking about, that internal thermostat of what do you see yourself valued as? And I know everybody, I'm priceless and all that. And I get all that. But the only person that can really answer that question is, what do you think you're worth? And, you can go through life and you see it at work and things like that. You walk through the corridor. Hey, Wendy, how you doing today? And you say, I'm doing great. And you ask me the same thing. I'm doing great. And we're dying inside, right? We got bills I'm worried about. How am I going to pay for my kids' college? How am I going to pay off these credit cards? Am I ever going to get ahead? I'm never going to get to retire and things like that. You got all these stresses. We just kind of put it out of our heads. But because we don't talk about this stuff, right? And that used to be how we were raised too. Never talked about, what goes on in the bedroom. Right. You never talk about money. Right. And this is middle America. And you never talk about politics. Now, that politics piece has clearly changed since we were kids. Right. So what I'm trying to do is get people to understand, hey, that money conversation, that can change too. And honestly, it needs to change because, what everybody's going through is there's 1,000 other people going through the exact same thing. You're not alone. But until we start talking about it and realize that, hey, I need some, a money team or a money mentor or something like that, it's never going to change, right? And start looking internally and asking yourself and being honest to yourself that, that man or woman in the mirror about, what do I think I'm worth? And you see it when, in your business, especially, I mean, you have people all of a sudden come in, start doing gangbusters, making great money, and they hit that certain spot, that comfort zone, right? That comfort zone, and all of a sudden I can't figure out why I'm not growing anymore or making more money. It's because you've hit your threshold on what you think you're worth.
Yep.
So
we create our own glass ceiling, right?
In essence, that's what you're doing. You're creating your own limiting belief. I mean, it's like the old story. I don't know if you've ever heard about circuses don't really exist anymore, but they had these huge elephants in the circus, and they had a little chain and a post put in the ground, and they teach them that at a very young age. And this is a very simplistic analogy, but it's true. You look at the elephant. Why doesn't an elephant just pull that thing out and just start doing whatever it wants? Because it's big enough. Well, because when it was a little baby elephant, it couldn't pull that chain, so it would pull and tug at it, couldn't move it. So now in its mind, I can't move that chain.
Yep.
And you see people, you see people in lives, they turn out just like their parents, which in some cases isn't a bad thing, but in some cases, like my father, for example, his parents were great, but he wanted something better. So he kind of broke through that mental barrier and taught me how to do that as well. And so it's exciting when you break free. You see inner city kids, they get a break and go, whether it's academics or sports or things like that, and they break out and kind of, all of a sudden the world changes for them. But then it becomes, how do I adapt to this new world? So
yeah. I want to back up to something you said about like having the right team around you. And I know we talk about this every week, but what people watching don't know is you and I had a conversation yesterday, and I had a rough day yesterday, and it's around money. It's around mistakes that I made in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey and really it's about, I didn't put the right people in place to help me with the areas they were good. I tried to do it all. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I have an attorney with the IRS right now. My IRS attorney said to me yesterday, she said, Wendy, you need to do the thing you're amazing at. You mm-hmm. need to focus on helping people grow their business online. You need to focus on your coaching and your network marketing. That's where you're good, where you shine. Let us take the burden of the financial piece. Let us take the burden of figuring the numbers and doing the books and right. And it was such a relief. I think sometimes we start to think that we're just supposed to know how to do it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yet if we could focus in our area of genius and employ and hire the right people to do the stuff that we're not great at, it'll make all the difference. If I had done that earlier, I would be in a very different financial state right now than I am. But I'll get there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's not a finish line, right? It's one of those things that it's a journey. And as you go through these things, you hopefully are learning from it. Anytime there are no failures in life. The only time you truly fail is when you quit.
Right.
Okay. The only time you truly fail is when you quit. Everybody's heard that Thomas Edison. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. Thomas Edison, it was over 1,000 times before he got the light bulb to actually work, right? And somebody asked him about it. He's like, well, how did, you had 999 failures or whatever. He's like, I didn't have 999 failures. I figured out 999 ways not to do the light bulb.
Yeah. And
so it's the same thing on our personal journey, our money journeys and things like that. But, the question becomes, okay, well, what is your thermostat? I mean, if you've been making, X figure, whether it's 75,000 or 150,000, and you haven't really been progressing beyond the, hey, great job this year, Mr. Smith, we're going to give you that 3% raise to keep up with inflation. If you're not really making money breakthroughs on that, you need to ask yourself before any really planning comes around is what do I think I'm worth? Right? Do you think you should be a millionaire? Right? And do you think, or a multimillionaire, do you think you should be making $500,000 a year? And some people are like, oh my gosh, if I could make $100,000 a year, I'd be happy. There was a point in time in my life, Wendy, when I never thought I would make $100,000 in my life. Mm-hmm. Now I was younger, maybe a little naive, but that just wasn't in our family identity, right? Nobody had ever made that much money. And the thing was, once I crossed over to that first six figure, I got to the 200 like that because it wasn't a barrier anymore. And that's what all of this is with money. I mean, it's one of those things. And I'm here to tell you, if you're watching this and you're listening, there are people who want to help you. And I'm not talking about, hey, let's charge you. There are people in groups where you can get plugged into and, figure it out together, right? And have that's what you want. You're talking about building a team. You want to be around people like you want to be like. If you're, John Maxwell, big fan of John Maxwell. One of the things he says is, you are an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And if they're all, complaining about the same stuff and you're all making about the same amount of money, you're never going to get out of that until you upgrade your sphere of influence, you upgrade your friends. And I've had friends still love them, family members too. I still love them, but I don't spend nearly as much time with them for the simple fact that I'm on a mission. I'm on a journey for my immediate family, my own self-worth of I want to see what I can do. Right. And there is no difference between, Wendy Lee and a Tony Robbins other than, hey, the vision I have for me and the fact that I need to make sure my internal thermostat is staying high. And that's where, the accountability and stuff, and that ties back to your money. Because I'm here to tell you, there is plenty of money out there to go, earn it. You're going to have plenty of people tell you, oh, that thing's a scam or this, that, or the other. But don't listen to the people who haven't had success. Listen to people that have had success and find out what they say about it. I mean, if you're listening to your cousin or your uncle who's not doing or is not where you want to be, and I'm not knocking anybody's family, believe me, but that's probably not the person to get, advice for, whether it's life advice, financial advice, or whatever. But yet we see it all the time because they're trusted. And we think, okay, because I trust them, that means their opinion's good. Not necessarily. So.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. One of the best books that I read in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey that helped my mind a lot was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And when he just talked about reframing your words, right? Like I would tell my kids all the time, we can't afford that. When really it's about choices. Yes, we can afford that. We're just not choosing to do that, or that's not in the budget. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But changing from I can't afford that to that's not in the budget really impacts our kids. Right. And we need to be mindful of the things that we say because of the generation after us. How much were we impressed upon by our parents? Right. We have that same power for our kids and we can make it for the positive.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I mean, one of my mentors, a guy named Greg Kapp, he taught me the art of pouring greatness into your children. Right. Constantly as parents, we were constantly telling them, no, don't do that, stop, things like that. And don't get me wrong. I'm not on the other extreme where, hey, let them do whatever they want and they'll figure it out. That's not what I'm saying at all. Believe me, we have discipline. But it's that, breaking through in that limiting mindset that they get from school and everything else about, you are going to do great things, and teach them about failure. So many kids, they think that they fail at something or they're not good immediately. It's like, no, that takes time. That takes practice. We're a big sports family, and it's one of those that, we teach them about that stuff. And money's the same thing. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1999, and it changed my life because all of a sudden it was like, wow. And then he wrote a second book called Cash Flow Quadrant. And that's really what I broke through on. I did a little snip yesterday and talked about the Cash Flow Quadrant, and it talks about ways to make money. And you look at how do we make money? I mean, most of us out there are trying to get by and build our empire, so to speak, on one source of income, right? Our job, right? And you're not going to make more money in that job. You get your salary or your hourly, and you're working 40 hours a week. That's it. So maybe you can score some extra overtime, or maybe you got a little bonus plan, but a lot of that is tied to things that are outside of your control. How did the company do? Well, you could have been a rock star, but the company suffered because of another division or whatever. You don't get your bonus. Okay, so that's just that world. But most of us limit ourselves to that, and it's like, okay, what can I do? And that really starts to look at where's the money at? I mean, there are literally most millionaires out there have 7 streams of income, and they're not out there driving the Maseratis and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, those people typically are up to their eyeballs in debt. The millionaires, there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. Highly recommend you read it. The number one vehicle, and this is a few years ago, but I'm sure it's still the same. The number one vehicle driven by millionaires is the F-150, a truck, right? Because it's good, it's dependable, and I'm not endorsing Ford, but it's one of those that, and then unless they want to endorse me, then I'll endorse them. But it's one of those things that it's keeping that asset and looking at. I don't want to have shiny things to show people that I don't even know and impress them. I want to instill good common money sense and a good, strong money identity in my children, and they're going to pass that down to their children and their children and so on. I mean, and that's really where it all starts, is what is your money identity? I mean, what do you think you're worth beyond the obvious, oh, I'm priceless. So.
Yeah. What pushed me into entrepreneurship actually was I was a corporate ladder climber. I was all about the corporate job and the next promotion and job hopping because better benefits, better pay. And I was at a Damon John wealth building seminar in Nashville, and they said, you will never build wealth with a salary job. And I was like, what? So what should I do? Right. That's when I added an additional stream of income. And now, granted, not all my streams of income are gigantic, but I have about 10 streams of income. Yeah,
there you go. And the goal is to go from the active side, again, that cash flow quadrant book. And I'll put all this in the notes when we post this video, but that cash flow quadrant book really teaches you about how, you've got the employee, right? They've got almost zero leverage. It's a subject to somebody else. You're not getting paid what you're worth because that's how the company makes profit. They pay you to build their dreams at less than you're actually worth, and they keep the profit, right? Some of us go and, hey, I'm gonna own my own business. So we start that self-employed. That's the next quadrant. And you look at that as, okay, I'm still trading my time for money though. And I've got to go and do painting or yard landscaping or whatever. And I'm trading that time for some cash. If I don't do that and give my time, I don't get that money back. Well, that's called active money, right? You have to actively do something or trade your time to get paid. Then you talk about the other side, the passive side, and these are the business owners where people are like, wait a minute, if I own my own lawn care business and I'm doing that aren't I a business owner? Maybe, but if you've got to be the one doing the work and you're not getting paid while you're on vacation, that's self-employed. That is not a business owner. And that's a huge, huge factor. And then you go to the investor quadrant, right? And that's where your money's making money for you. But on the business, the business owner side, think of it like a McDonald's franchise owner, for example. I guarantee you can look at a Bob's Burger, right? Bob's probably back there flipping the burgers. And then you look at the owner of the McDonald's, I guarantee he's not back there or she's not back there, right? They may be out doing something else. They got a people and system, using that they're leveraging, they've got all the leverage to help build their wealth. Now they're paying their people and whatever, McDonald's now, some are paying $15-20 an hour in order to get people to work, but they're still making more money than that. And that's really where that mental breakthrough happens. But if you don't expose yourself to that by being around others and things like that have the mindset that you do, that I do now, haven't. And I was the same way. I thought I got into banking and I'd arrived, man. And I was climbing that ladder relatively fast. I hit VP at 29. I thought, man, I got this on lockdown. That very same year, I got laid off for the first time. And it had nothing to do with me. Our division got sold and they were like, yep, we're getting rid of all the execs and you make too much money and thanks for playing. We got our own people doing that. And then, the next one was 2008. 2008 was not a good year for banking. And then finally the third time, I'm like, okay, 3 times, I got to figure something else out. This ain't working for me. And that's really where I started hanging around with other entrepreneurs. And it took some time, but, kind of figuring it out. So,
yeah, I was laid off twice. And my second layoff, I was like, peace out, not going back. Right. And so, and here's the thing, like people don't realize how easy it is to actually make money online, especially online.
Very.
You can take I talk about monetizing your genius. You can take anything that you're really good at, like ask your friends, what is it that I'm naturally good at, right? Sometimes we don't know in ourselves because we think something that comes natural to us doesn't come natural to other people, or that it does come natural to other people, but a lot of times it doesn't, right? And so like certain things I'm good at, sometimes I train it and people are like, oh my gosh, that changed my whole life. And I'm like, you didn't know that already? And it's not because they were ignorant. It was because it's something that's natural for me that wasn't for them, or that I've learned through the years that they haven't. And so you can monetize your genius online. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if you're really good at Excel, you can create Excel templates and sell them virtually all day long, right? You can go on Etsy. Like people sell all kinds of stuff on Etsy. If you're good with graphic design, creating graphic designs, people can just download, niching down, and you could sell it all day long in your sleep. The key is, because there's kind of like you were talking about it on a solopreneur versus a business owner, right? Self-employed versus business owner. My sister, she makes candles. If she doesn't make the candles, she doesn't get paid. She's trading time for money. However, right, if she sold templates for her labels for her candles, or right, that was a downloadable, or she sold a tutorial, a class on how to make your own candles, non-toxic candles at home, that creates residual and passive income. That's something you set up once and it keeps selling, right? So it's important to figure out those things that you can do that create that passive, and more than half of my income streams are passive or residual. And, I think it's important to distinguish between the two. Residual is work that I did up front that keeps paying me, and passive is stuff I never even really touched. Right. So I have a team in network marketing. When I recruit somebody, I can create residual income. When they recruit somebody, I'm getting paid on that. That's passive. I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so creating all those different income sources, and I know you have, ways for people to make money online and to
Mhm.
create that residual and that passive income. And that's really something to look for. You guys watching, if you don't have something like that, reach out to Jon and figure out what options are out there. If you have something you're really good at. I mean, I have a girlfriend right now that is teaching people voice lessons for speaking on Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
She's a
Yeah.
vocal coach, and she created a course for people to have a better speaking voice because so many people are going live on social media.
And that's the thing. I mean, and technology has made it so much easier. I mean, we do financial planning, and prior to COVID, we were doing meetings all face to face. So we were limited to our local markets, going out, to the clients' houses or having them come out to our physical offices. But now, because of COVID and the fact that, Zoom or webinar, GoToMeeting or whatever has become kind of second nature for everybody now. Everybody's, let's just hop on a Zoom and boom, you're there. Yep. So I can do more during the day or have more personal time. I'm actually working less, making more, because now my reach has gone so far out that I'm meeting with clients in all 50 states, up in Canada, Puerto Rico and things like that, talking about the same things where before I was limited to, the Nashville market. And it's just, again, getting that message out. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Like you said, Wendy, it's something, if you're good at Excel, I mean, I literally, it's funny you mentioned that. I literally just bought an Excel template for $20 last week. I could have done it myself. I'm like, is that the highest and best use of my time? The answer was no. Found it, bought it. I'm like, boom, done. Change a couple things here and we're good.
Yeah. I mean, I teach people a lot how to use this text broadcasting system called Project Broadcast, right? I created basically a workflow in Project Broadcast for new customers that were coming into the network marketing company I'm in. I have people buy that from me. I mean, at least one a week. Sometimes I have weeks where, I'm selling, one every day. But literally, I created something for myself. I grabbed a little code. I put together a quick tutorial video and I stuck it on my website. And I have people reach out to me all the time. Hey, where can I find that? Because it's word of mouth too. Spreading. I created it once. I'm done. It literally is a code. So anything you can create income from. So I want to encourage people watching, if you've had that stuck money mindset, if you've been in that one place that you think that money is scarce and that there's nowhere to make more, right? My coach taught me, my business coach taught me, she said, if I want something new, I earn new money. And I was like, ooh, that's a different way to think about things, right? Like I got to earn new money. I got to create different income for it. But write down some things that you're good at. Just even if they're dumb ideas, who cares? Write them down, because even the dumb ideas can lead you to good ideas and great ideas. But start writing those things down. When somebody says you're really good at that, or when you create something for your own use in your workspace, go, how can I leverage this? How can I get this in the hands
of other people? The brainstorming session, right? And so as we kind of come up on our time, I just, again, kind of recap some things. Number one, understand that there is a limitless supply of money out there for you and your family. Okay. And I know that may seem just like totally an alien concept to people, but it's the truth. Once you start doing these exercises, you'll start to realize that, oh my gosh, there is. Now you've got to take action, right? That's the whole thing about law of attraction, that positive phrasing versus negative phrasing works, but you've got to put some action behind the law of attraction. Last 5 letters are action. But you look at that in number one is really determine, what is my money identity? Am I rich person, poor person? And I'm not talking about, oh, I'm just going to be content with what I have. I'm talking physical, what do you have? And it may be different for you, and whatever your answer is, that may be the right answer. But if it's not what you thought it was, and there's a track record, you can look back over your income history, right? And you'll see a track record there. That's the reality of it. So, number one, what is your identity? Number two is exactly what Wendy was talking about of, what are some things that I'm good at? You don't have to be great at it, but that you're good at. The people, maybe they seek advice to you. We get a lot of people who come in, work part-time with us in financial planning because their friends are always asking them for advice. And it's like, we allow part-time, advisors and agents come work with us. So you look at that piece. And then the third thing, is really to get a team around you. And I'm not talking a team like you're hiring people, that may be down the road, but just a group, your band of brothers or sisters, right, that are like-minded, are going to encourage you when the challenges come up. And it's not going to be the people you're hanging out with now. If that were the case, you'd already be there. So understand that. Okay. And then that fourth thing is, you know, building that plan of action and being open-minded. You know, you mentioned you're in network marketing, which, you know, Robert Kiyosaki talks about that in Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's one of the best streams of income out there. But you have all these haters out there that, oh, not pyramid scheme, blah, blah, blah. That don't buy their BS. Okay. If they've not done it and had success at it. I mean, a lot of these companies out there have great products and they have great people doing it. Now they're making multiple levels of money. Some are doing well, some aren't, but you need to do the investigation, go into it with an open mind and ask the questions, right? You know, show me some examples of success. Show me some examples of, you know, the average person. What are they doing?
I've built a 6-figure income twice, 2 different companies in network marketing.
Yeah.
I can do it. Anyone can do it.
And that's the thing I've seen, because I've looked at some of them too. I mean, some of them, you know, are kind of wobbly wheel. I get that, but that's why you do your homework. But you still go out and ask the questions, make yourself vulnerable. It's like dating, right? I mean, you know, you get hurt one time, you're not going to not date anybody ever again, right? I mean, let's go. People. Well, some people, yeah, but you know, that's why. Never mind. I was going to say cats have homes, but I know there are cat lovers out there. But you know, it's one of those things that you've got to go into it with an open mind and understand. As long as you're failing forward, that's a good thing. That is part of the growth, part of the learning. But I'm telling you, don't limit yourself because of your own limiting beliefs. Get out of your comfort zone. Everything you want in life, everything, it's possible, and you can do it as long as you follow those little steps we just laid out and get out of your comfort zone and realize it may feel a little different, but that's okay. That's why you have your band of brothers locking arm in arm with you, and they'll do it with you. So that's all I've got, Wendy. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
No, and I just say, like, you know, I'm a big fan of promoting courage, right? Yeah. So when we are stuck in the mundane, right, a lot of times that's our sign that it's time for a little courage and to do something out of the ordinary that does feel uncomfortable, because that's where we grow. And so,
if you're in a rut, get out of it.
I always say nothing worth having comes easy.
No,
nothing worth having comes to the lazy.
No, you got to go get it. You got to go get it. Well, I'll post those books in the comments so you can have those. You know, go grab a copy, eBay, Amazon, whatever works for you, right? The other thing too is we've created a group called My 6-Figure Side Hustle, and this is a group that you go to my6figuresidehustle.com. You can go out there, join the group. This is going to be an open discussion on just different ideas on how you can make some extra money. Okay. Number one, we're not doing any recruiting. So if you're there, oh, I'm going to go recruit a bunch. No, we're not going to allow any of that. Number two is there's no haters allowed. If somebody's, you know, you got something that somebody mentions, oh, don't do that, blah, blah. We're going to talk about it. Okay. And go through the pros and cons, that Benjamin Franklin list. That way we've got kind of that safe place that we can talk about this. My whole goal is, again, I'm trying to bring that Wall Street to Main Street. Wealthy people talk about money all the time. So now middle class has understood that, hey, we're talking about politics all the time. Let's start talking about different ways to make money. So again, thanks for coming out. Money Moves. You know, hope to see you here next Tuesday. Wendy, as always, I'm glad you're here. And everybody go out, get your dream, go be awesome. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.